So the big question is this: how are investors like us, who don't have a PhD in finance or millions to start investing, how do we grow our bank accounts to build real savings and retirements and yet still have the time to do what we really love? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Awesome! All right, hey guys, John Blue here with the podcast. Super excited to start the week off today. Really fun trading morning today. We had some good movers on DHSI, I believe. The tickers, I lose them sometimes, but it was a fun morning. I didn't get a great trade. I was doing, trading XLE or something this morning. It was weird. The ticker, they were like a $12 stock, huge pre-market gain, and they went up a whole bunch. And I was trying to get on them in the morning on a flag setup, and I thought I had three-day trades, but unfortunately I had one-day trade. So I got in after they broke through the VWAP, going for continuation on a VWAP movement. It broke through in the first 2 minutes of trading, which is usually a super awesome indicator, but unfortunately it just kind of tapered off and went below the VWAP, and I got stopped out. And after I got stopped out, it went down another 10-20%. So solid stop out, super okay with it. It was about a 4-to-1 risk reward ratio. So what are you gonna do? Just take that trade, and you got to go all in on it. Well, not all in, but like, you go hard on it, and you take the risk, which is totally cool. But small loss, high gain, and hit that trade 10 times, you're gonna be amazing. Unfortunately, like I said, that was my last day trade, so I kind of got stopped out. Couldn't really trade for the rest of the day, but I was trading with Jake, which is super fun, and he had his day trade. And I was on my laptop this morning, which is cool because it lets you, get it done on the go, which is awesome. But unfortunately, it also means that I had less monitors. So there were a couple of really nice movers this morning at around 9:50. And what happened was I just didn't have enough charts on my screen, right? So I was streaming this one pre-market gainer, and it's the pre-market gainer that really took off today. And with that stock, what happened was in the morning they were just kind of iffy, and they went up, and it was like kind of weird. But then I took them off this. I can only look at like 4 stocks at a time when I have one screen up. So I was going through the screeners. There were a ton of new stocks on the screeners, which was awesome, really cool. So I take a break from that stock, and I forget about it. And the problem is there was like maybe 15 stocks on the screen. Stuff up, and so it's harder to have a whole bunch of stocks open. So I was trading along, and there was this other position, and Jake traded that one, which is really cool. Super fun one right there. That was like a W interior Bollinger Band setup, and also a flag setup like before. So the flag setup was awesome. Got in on that, made about 10%. I didn't make 10%, like I said, I didn't have a day trade, but then you sell that on the VWAP after it continues all the way up to it, which is cool because it broke the 9 exponential moving average, even since it opened low, and it opened low even though it was a really solid pre-market gainer. So you'll see that pretty consistently. So that's a solid trade to take. And then after it consolidated, usually, right, like I won't trade a stock if I lose money on it for the rest of the day. I just won't trade it. But if I make money on it, I'll trade it again. And so I saw that trade, and he was still on that trade, but there was a retrace and then a W movement, and so he got in on that, and it went up. It went through the VWAP because it broke back below the VWAP after that first movement early in the morning. But what was cool is it just kind of like reconsolidated, came back together, and like I said, across the street. All right, cool. Not gonna get run over today. Awesome. So after that, it just kept going up and up, and then it broke through the VWAP, right? So that was the entry point, and then it spiked. It was about $9 stock, went up about 20 cents. So just a small move. And then I was looking for a continuation up to about a 10% gap with a 2% stop loss. And unfortunately, the momentum was low, volume was low. It is earnings week, so I guess people are a little bit hesitant. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but we'll see how it goes. There are some big names reporting this week, so that's going to affect overall market sentiment. Not really necessarily 9 new stocks. So just a bad morning. But get this, right? We stopped out of that trade because, like I said, it stopped and just didn't continue. About 2% down, which sucks. But you get out of that trade because the momentum's gone. profits aren't there. It's not predictable anymore. And then get this, right? So there was that one stock that had a really cool pre-market move, and it had very, very well-defined support and resistance levels based off weekly support and resistance levels. And those are just support and resistance horizontal price levels that you graph by looking essentially just at the previous highs, the previous lows, the previous consolidation points on a stock, which is really, really, really powerful, because those psychological price levels are really going to stay in play. They're going to be an influencer of price for years and years and years to come. I mean, they basically never go away. If you have a very, very significant price level, no matter the time frame, it's going to have a huge impact on 9-to-noon trading. So I had those levels graphed, and the start of the ABCD setup, it started popping up through that support level, and the target on it was basically the resistance level. It was really, really cool. If you looked at the ABCD setup, the D target, which was twice the A, was essentially about a 40-cent run up on a $7 stock up to that resistance level. So like I said, I took it off the screen. I come back to it. You know, we're looking at like long-term trades after that swing trade. It's really cool stuff. I'm up right now like 30% on some of those OXY calls, which is super, super cool. We were looking at a couple of stocks around that space, just because the morning volatility was gone for just a minute. And then I pull this thing back up, and it's an entire ABCD setup, fully completed, and just crushed it. I mean, it was awesome. And I was just so sad, because it was like, I didn't trade it, man. No one traded it. We missed it. That was like the setup of the day. That was like a solid 50% gain with like a 3 or 6% risk, which is awesome. It was just a really, 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 really powerful trade. But we didn't have enough charts up, and you know, personally, I just didn't have enough monitors, so I totally missed it. It sucks. But I couldn't trade anyway because of the day trading thing. Hey, thanks so much. So the point today, right, it's like maybe you have, you know, the tools that you need when you're starting, because well, you don't want to get skumped out of a trade because you just have to get rid of the chart to open another stock, and then you get distracted, and then the stock's just not there. The day there was like 4 promising stocks, and that was one of them. So what happened is, after the market opened, there were maybe 10 or 15 on the screener, right? So there was a lot more diversity, a lot more to choose from. So it made sense to step back a little bit and look very, very quickly, you know, at what made sense for the plays that were given and whatever was happening in the marketplace. Because essentially, right, you're looking at just a lot of things to go through. I gotta go. There's a presentation today, and I really, really have to like practice. But also, I really have to get to this science place so I can like test out of this class. So we're on a racing spree this morning. It's pretty interesting. It was actually cool. I just went by a couple clients, potential clients, prospects, and I'm trying to get down to do like a prospect a day and get an in-person presentation to them, just to do consistency, but also not like overcommitment, right? Like I seriously need to hurry and get to where I'm going so that I can get all this stuff done. But at the same time, you know, I just took a break. I sat, put the bike down, and spent, you know, just like 10 minutes sitting down with a prospect and working through their business and their situation. And that's really, really powerful, because if you can do like one of those a day, eventually, right, you're going to lead to a sale. It's all about that consistency, right? Like I might have lost just a little bit today, but eventually, right, it's going to lead to consistent profits if you just keep doing it over and over and over. Because you know, you're not going to close a deal on the first try. You're not going to make the best stock trade. Sometimes on the first try, sometimes you can. Sometimes you get one of those really awesome stocks like Soly, S-O-L-Y, that just like quintuples in a day. Those stocks are so freaking amazing. I love them. And that's what you trade for. You'll see those like once a month in a good economy. In a bad economy, they're pretty much about once a month usually. Just depends. But you just have to be there consistently every day, because if you're not putting your foot in the door and you're not showing your face there, wherever it is, right, metaphorically or in the markets, whatever it is that you do, it's super, super important to go and get going. Even if you take minimal action every day, minimal consistent action is much, much more powerful than just massive. On your left. Thank you. Then taking like huge action, because you have to stay consistent with things like that. And it's interesting because right now I'm doing this podcast every day, but I'm not like actually publishing it because I seriously need someone to edit it. And I'm working like 16 hours a day. Like I just don't have the time to edit it. I could make the time to edit it, but I know that editing is not like the highest and best use of my time. And at the same time, I know that like, at the beginning, it takes a long time to get traction, right? So it's weird because like I also want to put like the book, like just like a little thing at the end for the book, and because I know like that book will change people's lives, right? And it's weird because like I haven't made it yet, and I'm working right now on the funnel on the website on all the awesome bonus content. Like this morning, I spent like 4 hours recording that Think and Grow Rich course, the awesome goal setting, personal success, mindset training, like all that amazing stuff that has just completely changed my life that I want to share with so many people. And like that stuff takes time to do, right? So when I think about publishing, like publishing is different. It's so strange because the instant you start to publish content consistently, you can amass an insanely powerful following, right? And then that following turns into like a manifestation of whatever it is that you want to complete in the marketplace, whatever value you want to bring to people's lives. It gives you an output, it gives you an outlet to do that, which is so powerful. But it all comes through, doing it, right? And so it's interesting to see how this stuff's going to go. I'm really excited about it. But it's also, it's a lot of stuff. Because with YouTube too, it's super powerful platform. And that's where I focus a ton of my energy. But at the same time, it's really tough because it's just, it'll take me like, I can record like, 10 videos at a time, but then it's just the editing is killer for me. I got 100 gigabytes of video files right now going around on my computer, and it's going to take like, it said 24 hours, and then now it's like 20 hours after 4 hours. So basically an entire day just to transfer that content. And then to edit it and render it, it's forever and ever. And so that's a huge amount of time because you have to like get it set up to do it. And then, I don't know, man, it's tough. It's just not, my A ability. It's not my peak performance factor, right? Like I'd rather trade stocks than render videos or edit videos and stuff. So it's like, you gotta find a way to make things work. So right now, right, every day I'm doing these, I'm trying to get in these in-person visits because that's really like my thing. Like no one else can do that for me. That's my peak ability. But at the same time, I have a team of people behind me, and they're calling these guys. They're also doing lead gen. I've got systems and practices on Facebook taking in leads, but they're also just guys getting leads for me. And then I'll go in and follow up and visit, and that's a lot of work. And it's the front end work of the maximum value that I want to put my efforts towards, rather than that stuff that just doesn't matter. Same thing with trading, right? It's like that crowded. It's like, okay, here's a really good metaphor, and I'm only going to do it because I have a little bit extra time, just because I'm going to that science place this morning. If I make it on time, I hope so. I believe. I think we can do it. So we were just at this like college orientation at Georgia Coastal, and it was like a speech, and it was cool. It was really fun. Passing my straight. It was awesome. And we go to this pier, and at this pier, right, there are just tons and tons of people, like probably 20 people, and they're all standing on the pier with their fishing poles, and they're all trying to fish at the same time, and there are just like a ton of fishing lines coming out of the pier from these guys, these people. They're all fishing into the water, and I'm looking at the water, and I can't see a single fish anywhere near the pier. And I walk through the pier, and nobody has a bucket with any fish in it. It's so weird because like there's basically, I think one guy caught like 3 fish out of like the 20 plus people there, which is crazy, right? And then I'm thinking like, well, what's going on here? What's wrong? And so we go back, we drive, we come back to the hotel, and they have this spa, and at the spa there's this pond outside the spa, and in this pond there are like 30, 40 fish. Oh my God, there's a giant sign in the middle of the road! Oh man! Okay, anyway, so there's like a ton of fish in this little teeny pond, and these are like massive, girthy, thick fish. They're huge, right? So, I mean, I bend over and I lay down on like the little walkway. I can like stick my hand in the pond, and everywhere I look, there's just fish, and I can just grab the fish. I literally like grabbed the fish, just picked it up. It sweamed out of my arm. It like was slippery and it got away, which is a shame. But like I started pouring, little water droplets in, and these fish just start freaking out. They're jumping all over the place. They're jumping on top of each other. I mean, they are going crazy ham, trying to like in this huge dog pit of fish, trying to get just a little bit of this water that I'm splashing around, and it's just insane, right? So then I was thinking about here, where there were tons and tons of people trying to fish, and then I'm looking at this pond. This pond is so rich in fish and so dense in fish, but then these guys at the pier, right, what they were doing is they were all competing over a very small amount of fish in a very large lake, ocean front, really. And then I'm over at this pond. There's nobody here, and there's this teeny pond full of fish. And these fish are starving. Like, their mouths are poking out of the water. They have these gaping holes open, just waiting to be fed. Anything. They just want, like they were trying to eat my water. They would have eaten like anything I threw in there. If I put any sort of fishing bait in there, like they would be instant. Like instantly, they'd eat it. And it was crazy because when I was at this pier, we had these people that were probably out there for 8+ hours, and they hadn't caught a single fish. And it was like, what? I saw this one couple. They had a huge net. They're trying to catch a lobster, and put like an entire like chicken thigh in their. Thanks, man. They put this chicken thigh in this big net, and then they put the net in water, right? So it was really interesting. The guy, he put it in the water, and like nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. He's just trying really hard to get, something to come in a lobster to come in his net, ate this entire chicken thigh, so that he can pull it up and catch this lobster, right? And what was really interesting was this guy. He throws this huge net, and then he's trying to hold the rope on one end, but he accidentally lets go of the rope, and the whole thing just flies into the water. He throws his whole net in the water, and it was like, well, whoops, right? Because now all of a sudden he basically just like threw a fishing pole in the water. It was a big net, and then it was just gone, right? And instead of a simple process, a simple way to go from nothing to catching that lobster, that fish, whatever he was after, he just wasn't able to do it, and it was tough. So I think of that, and then I compare it to like if you just had like a stick or a sphere or anything, you could just throw it, hard into this small pond of just giant fish, and you could like visibly see them. They were everywhere. It's just such a huge difference in the game you play, but it's about the same effort, right? If I'm going to throw a fishing line off of a pier versus throwing a fishing line into that little tiny pond, it's pretty much the same, amount of effort to get it done. It's you put the bait on and you put it in the water and you're done. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, how can I apply it to financial markets? And then I realized that like there are people, and every single day they're doing like, they call them high frequency traders, but like they just take a ton of leverage, and they'll trade these super big stocks that move like just a very small fraction of a percent every day. It's crazy. And then they just try to make like very small percentages of their money by trading really big stocks. And for a lot of people, like they make modest gains, and they're putting a bunch of fishing whirls, a bunch of fishing rods, a bunch of nets out over that pier. And a couple of people at the pier, right, they'll catch a few fish, and it makes sense, they'll do it. But what's interesting is like, then you look at that same amount of effort, and you go, okay, well, how else can I do this? And then you apply those same, technical analysis, trading principles in trading, and all of a sudden, then what happens is you have this massive payoff for essentially the same amount of work. And that's what I was thinking about. And that's when I realized that, everyone that was hanging out around this pond, they had massive. They were just way successful than the people that were trying to go for this. They're thinking small, and they were just playing the normal game with everyone else at the pier instead of trying to tactically think, where the best place could possibly be for their expedition, for their fishing for the day. I totally get, right? Like, it makes sense. Some of these guys are just doing it for fun, but if you think, there was also like fishing boats out in the ocean, which is super cool because those guys are out there, they're crushing it, they're going hard to get these fish. But then there are these other areas where, at least for recreational use, it just makes so much more sense to play in the fields where you just have a tremendous advantage over, traditional mindsets, traditional ideologies. And it's just this really, really powerful idea that, instead of working by the normal game like everyone else, if you just take a step back and think, what is really the best way for me to do whatever it is you want to do? And that's a really, really powerful mindset and philosophy. Just need to understand. Because I'll tell you what, and this is kind of weird. I've seen this a lot, and more recently, it's come up, and it's been pretty interesting. There was this like big wasp, and it was like, I think it was like yellow. I don't know what it was. It was kind of cool. It looked like a bee, but like it was kind of waspy, and it was really, really crazy. And this wasp, it got inside somehow. I don't know how, and it was whirring around in the morning, and I was just kind of like, I didn't really want to deal with this. I just left it alone for a little bit. Then the sun started to come up, and saw the light, and it was like really, really highly. It was like, wow, I should go towards this light. So it sees the light, and what happened was really, really cool. It went to the window that was closest, and it said, hey, I want to get to the sun. I want to get out of here. Let's figure out a way to escape. So it starts to run into the window, and it flies into the window over and over and over and over. Just keeps banging its head into the window, which was crazy, right? And I see that happen, and I just kind of let it go. It just does its thing. And there's this wasp that just keeps banging the window for like 25 minutes. I mean, it was crazy. It was just over and over and over and over. And what was so weird was like this wasp, right? It didn't know what was up, clearly. But more interestingly, like, it was just trying to get out. It was just trying to do its thing. And it was so laser focused on this one task at hand that it almost just didn't recognize its surroundings. It wasn't able to just look back and understand what was going on for itself. So what I did is I was sitting back and I was thinking, what is this guy doing? It's crazy. He's just doing the same thing over and over, trying to break through this glass window like it was going to break, or the sun was going to teleport, he was going to teleport outside. It was so weird, because when I'm sitting back and I'm looking at him, like, I opened up the door to go outside. I opened up his path to freedom. But this wasp, he was so focused on what he was doing right then and there. He was so deeply committed to just bashing into this window. Want more stock market secrets? If so, go get your free copy of my best-selling book, 9 to Noon. You can get your free copy plus $11,176 of unannounced bonuses completely for free at 9tonoonsecrets.com. Inside 9 to Noon, you'll find the top 38 secrets we use to double our portfolios every 2 years and make upwards of 10% per trade daily.